Felton, who will be moderating today's session. Claude?
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you calling in. Speak with Coach Lanning. We're going to go straight to questions, and we're going to begin with Anthony Dasher and then to Chip Towers.
Hey, Coach, good to see you today. I want to ask you, I guess, first of all, about the dynamic within the defensive coaching staff. You know, a lot of guys with a lot of experience. You know, Coach Martin, his background. Now you kind of add Coach Muschamp into the mix. How does all that work as far as what you guys are trying to do?
You know, it's actually really a blessing for us to have that experience on our side of the ball. And the great thing about our group is there's zero egos. And a lot of guys everybody's pulling the rope in the same direction. And when you can have a guy like Coach Muschamp, as well as the additional coaches we have on our staff, it's obviously a benefit for myself and every one of our players.
Dan, speaking of blessings, it's hard not to notice how you've been blessed in the last several years being at Georgia. You know, just from an employment and compensation standpoint, I haven't done the math on the exponentiality of it, but obviously, you know, you and your family have been very well blessed here. But can you just talk about that doesn't happen without opportunities to go other places, about your decision to continue to stay at Georgia, what you're trying to accomplish here, and kind of what Georgia has given you in terms of the support and to be able to do your job and concentrate on your job?
Well, first off, I just got to say that I'm forever grateful to Coach Smart for giving me the opportunity to coach at the University of Georgia. You know, it's always been a dream of mine to coach the elite and have an opportunity to compete for championships at the highest level. And I think Georgia provides that. And you know, they've always been competitive, and when you have good programs, guys are going to get opportunities, but the grass is certainly not always greener. And, you know, I learned that from watching Coach Smart for several years. You know, being where you're at and being successful where you're at, you know, those opportunities will come, but my focus is being here right now.
Thank you.
All right, let's go to Mike Griffith and then to Seth Emerson.
Dan, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, Kirby was talking about the pressing issues on defense. Obviously, you lose a lot of guys in the secondary, but he brought up filling the shoes of Azeez Ojulari and the pass rush that Azeez was able to bring. Can you kind of give us an update and maybe throw some names out there, some guys that could help solve that problem?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, obviously Azeez provided a lot of consistency for us in a pass rush standpoint. And, you know, but, you know, his success also limited maybe some other guys' opportunity on the field. So we know, you know, obviously Adam Anderson's skill set and his ability to rush the passer, I think it's going to create some opportunities for guys like Nolan Smith, Robert Beal that have, you know, been sharing some of those reps in the past. And then Trayvon Walker, I expect, you know, really big things to show up with him, and excited about some of the young guys that kind of come into the fold. And I think we will continue to adapt defensively about where we create pressure, where we create those one-on-ones. Maybe that means there's going to be some more one-on-ones inside rather than, you know, out on the edge. But I feel confident we've got the guys that can replace, you know, some of that production for Azeez, and also excited to see what Azeez does at the next level for the Giants.
Dan, I wanted to ask about pass defense going forward. It's obviously, you look at the NFL draft, not a talent issue last couple of years. Your all's run defense 1-2 in the country your first 2 years as coordinator. Pass defense, is there anything you can do at this point? Have you spent the greater part of the last offseason trying to figure this out? And obviously you don't want to tell Clemson whether you've concocted a magic formula, but where are you in trying to figure out how to navigate this?
Yeah, I think, you know, Seth, the game is certainly obviously changing, and we've always been built on stopping the run. I don't think that piece changes, but we have to be, you know, creative. And I think every single year that we've been here defensively, and Coach Smart's always pushed this, you know, we're going to continue to look to adapt and change. You know, you bring in Coach Adai from West Virginia, had the #1 pass defense in the nation. You know, last year you obviously had Coach Muschamp in the mix, and we'll always have some new, fresh ideas of how we can adapt and do things differently. And then a lot of it plays to your players' strengths. You know, when you have guys like Tyson Campbell and Eric Stokes, you're going to play and put those guys on islands a little bit more. And there were some more explosive plays last year than we want, and we're charting those and keeping track of those throughout practice. But yeah, we'll definitely adapt and look for ways to prevent those shots down the field.
Let's go to Mark Weiser and then Dean Legge.
Dan, regarding adding Tyke Smith and Darian Kendrick specifically, what does each bring individually with their skill set that you think can improve your back end?
I think they're both really instinctual players. You talk about, obviously you want the athleticism piece, and but both those guys have tremendous football instincts, in my opinion. And they're not coming unpolished. They have some, been developed in the places that they were at, so they come here, with the ability to adapt and pick up. I think, going through some of the player-led stuff they were able to do this summer, they really got a leg up and coming in and pick up our system. Also think that gave us a chance to, rethink. We have some young freshmen, some new guys in, rethink how we, deliver the message about what we're doing in the back end and making sure it's a simple message that we can execute. But certainly excited about those two guys.
We've got Dean Legge. Dean?
How about now?
Okay, got it.
Gotcha.
Dan, I wanted to take you back to the day that your wife was diagnosed. I wanted to ask you how tough, well, I know how tough it was, but what did you immediately think when you heard that news?
Man, life's bigger than football. Immediately thought about my kids. And then thought about how grateful I was that, it came when we had great support. At that time I was with Coach Norvell, but, quickly heard from other coaches that I'd coached with in the profession, whether it be Coach Smart, whether it be, coaches that I'd coached with at Alabama, and that family, that unique support that we received was obviously a blessing. But yeah, you get scared quick and you realize, man, life is a little bit different than just ball. And that was a good refresher for me. Certainly was.
All right, let's go to Jake Rowe and then Connor Riley.
Coach Lanning, I wanted to ask you, obviously you're in charge of the defense, but I would imagine you're a pretty big fan of the offense as well. And, through a couple of days of you guys being in pads and everything, what's kind of your impression of how that group looks? And is there any particular area they're kind of giving you trouble right now?
Well, we one of the goals coming into fall camp was to create that competitive atmosphere between both sides of the ball. And I'd say they've certainly won some, and we've certainly won some. But it's fun when you have a side of the ball that's really talented. And I think Coach Monken and his side of the staff do a phenomenal job of getting those guys ready to play. And they're doing a lot of things that stress us defensively, which is good. I'd rather see that now than when we get to season. But JT is obviously an operator. They have a lot of talent in the backfield there, and excited to see some young guys step up on the other side of the ball and stretch us vertically, and really attack a lot of pieces that are tough for us on defense. So it's a good group to go against.
Hey, Dan, I wanted to ask you about Jordan Davis. What has impressed you about how he's developed, and what are you looking to see him sort of add to his game this year as he comes back for his senior season?
Yeah, I mean, Jordan just doesn't get moved. I know we always talk about his size, but I think one thing that he's continued to improve on, it's not just be a guy that doesn't get moved and eats up a block, but be a guy that separates from a block. I'm anticipating Jordan being a guy that can play, 3 downs. He's got to get his body in position where he can do that, because he is extremely athletic. He's super talented. And when his conditioning, fits that, he's a guy that can create issues on first and second down. When you have a guy that's Jordan's size, offenses are going to try to get the ball away from Jordan, and they're going to try to say, hey, we're going to make him a non-factor. But you see some plays, like in the Cincinnati game we showed as a team defense the other day, of Jordan running the ball down. And that's because of his conditioning. So if he's able to maintain that, it's going to allow him to really push himself and be a guy that can be an every down player for us.
Let's go to Blaine Gilmer and then to Palmer Toms.
Hey, Dan, wanted to ask you about offenses today. They're able to try to dictate to you guys with formation and motions and tempo. As that moves forward, the kind of the evolution of offense, are defenses, as you guys study in the offseason, able to do anything to kind of flip the script and dictate back to offenses what they can do?
I think so, Blaine. It's a good question. I think one of the biggest things that Coach Smart's been able to do is, we adapt the way that we've practiced. Before, in coaching, you'd run a practice play. All the coaches would come back to the huddle. They'd coach the guy and what technique they did wrong. And then you go out there and set up the next play, line up and run it. Now with fastball, tempo offenses, coach creates those periods within practice, and it makes our guys communicate fast. And a lot of times you're going to be coaching it off of film. But it makes them react, go faster. So I think, always defensive football is trying to recreate what's going to happen in a game in practice. And I think coach has done a good job of simulating those situations.
Thank you.
Yeah, kind of going back to the idea of what's giving you trouble from the offense so far, the duo of Eric and Darnell, what's it like defending against them, and how do they, put pressure on your defense?
Yeah, all those tight ends and wideouts that we have been are obviously create a lot of issues. We got a lot of big bodies that can go down and catch the ball in space. I think the biggest thing is they make contested catches and they run really, really well. For Darnell Went being a guy that is over 270 and able to move like he moves, it's pretty impressive with a big catch radius. So even when you're playing tight coverage, that might not be enough. So that's something we're battling every day, and it's good for us to get to go against those guys in practice.
All right, let's go to Vance Levy and then Davis Baker.
Hey, Coach Lanning, you probably don't know this, but backers of Georgia football have been waiting for the depth at the defensive line for decades. Beyond the obvious of, shuttling in fresh bodies, what else does that give you as a coordinator that the layman fan or person wouldn't know about?
Well, I think when you're talking about defense, defense is the ultimate team sport. And the more guys you're able to, involve in that process, when you have a lot of guys that can play at a high level, the more buy-in there is on your side of the ball. And I think we have really great leaders. We've challenged our players to make this a player-led team. And the more players that are involved, the more it becomes a player-led team. And we've always said, if you're good enough, you're old enough. Doesn't matter how old you are, but if you play at the right level, with the right intensity, the right competitive toughness, you execute your assignment, then we're going to figure out a way to get you on the field. And I think that's been a benefit. Certainly will be a benefit this year.
Hey, Coach, just looking forward to Clemson. What makes DJ Uiagalelei so unique at quarterback, and what challenges will he, give your defense?
Ultimately, obviously DJ's got great size, and that's something that sticks out to you. It's when you put a body on him, it's going to take, you're going to have to be great at wrapping up and finishing to truly tackle. I think he stands big in the pocket, and he creates some issues with his athleticism, his ability to run. And he's a guy that's always falling forward when he does, but he has a strong arm. He can push the ball down the field. So certainly a great quarterback for us to get to go against early.
All right, we've got a few more minutes here, so we're going to open up. Anybody has a question, go ahead and fire away.
Hey, Jake Roos here with Dogs HQ. Coach Lanning, I wanted to talk to you about Keely Ringo. Obviously, a tough season for him last year. Wasn't able to see the field. Expectations are huge. I guess just his attitude coming into this camp, what you've seen from him, and how far along he is, given that he had to miss so much of last year.
There's obviously never there's nothing that can replace game experience, and Keely missed out on that. And on the same note, I think Keely's working extremely hard in practice to put himself in position to be able to go and make plays and learn what we do, defensively. And I'll say he's engaged. Keely's intelligent and he puts the time in. But we're going to continue to challenge Keely because I'm excited to see what this guy can do. He obviously runs extremely fast. He's got great size. And the more experience he gets, the more reps he gets, the better he's going to get. So he's done a great job so far working through fall camp. And we've had a lot of competition in that back end, with Keely, to create those guys coming out there to work every day in that environment.
Can you confirm, Coach, specifically that Tyke's fitting in at that star position as most of us predicted? And you mentioned, I know Breeny and Amir and all those guys aren't just going to get out of the way here, just to touch on the competition aspect of playing time for those guys.
Well, as you know, Jay, we haven't had a scrimmage yet. But yes, I will tell you that Tyke's working at star as well as other positions, because for a long time in our defense, we've always trained guys at multiple positions. And, you know, part of the piece of that is to make sure that you have your best 11 on the field. If there's an injury, if there's something that comes up with COVID, if there's something that comes up that makes it to where that guy can't be on the field. So yeah, Tyke's working a star. You know, Amir and Brini, the two guys you brought up, are working extremely hard as well. And they're working multiple positions too. You know, Amir working at corner and working at money, and Brini working at star and working at safety. So yeah, we got great competition there, and certainly nobody's moving out, and we're going to see how it continues to develop, you know, throughout the fall.
Coach, will Coach Muschamp keep his nose in the defensive meeting room at all? And what has he brought, I guess, to you personally? He's known as a guy that's been in the business a long time, very popular in that building.
Yeah, I just have such a tremendous respect for Coach Muschamp and the job he does. He's a guy that I lean on a lot, you know, for advice, really in every situation, you know, whether it be football, life. But yeah, I definitely think that he will be involved with us on defense, and excited to see that as it continues to develop.
Hey, Dan, how much is on Nakobe Dean's plate this year, and how ready is he for that challenge?
And Nakobe's ready for that challenge. You know, a lot. We have a lot on every one of our players' plates. You know, but Nakobe's, you know, certainly a big time signal caller for us. I'm excited to see Quay Walker and Channing Tindall and those guys as well. You know, and we got some young guys that are really coming up and doing a great job also. But Nakobe's, you know, having a good fall so far, and he knows that, you know, we have high expectations for him, but nobody has higher expectations for Nakobe Dean than Nakobe Dean. I promise you that.
Coach, would you say, you know, Channing Tindall, obviously you lose Monty and you guys are kind of looking to fill that void. Concerning Channing, would you say that maybe since you've been here, that this year may be his biggest leap in terms of how much he's grown and how much he's able to kind of do defensively for you guys?
Yeah, I think that's probably fair to say, Jake. Channing is a guy that's earned our trust over time, and he's played, you know, significantly more snaps each year that he's been here, and he's gotten significantly better each year that he's been here. And I think this could be a really big year for Channing. So excited to see what he does.
Coach, with Chaz Chambliss being a guy that's so physically developed coming out of high school, is he a type of guy you think maybe could see some time early with special teams, that kind of stuff? And is he working exclusively now at inside linebacker? Saw some stuff on social media, him holding up the silly card saying, you know, Schumann was his teacher on that deal first day of camp. So is he inside or is he more outside now?
He's primarily worked at outside linebacker for us. And yeah, Chaz is a guy, you know, I think the thing that's probably most impressive with Chaz is his work ethic. And I think that's carried over since high school. You know, we kind of make the joke in our room, the guy lives in the building. You know, this guy is getting extra treatment, watching extra film, any opportunity he gets. So I think it's early to say exactly what his role is going to look like this season. But I know that if it comes being based on work ethic, there's no doubt that Chaz will make a big impact.
Hey, Coach, Lewis last week said he was striving to be more vocal. How's it been thus far for him achieving that?
Yeah, I think that's one thing, you know, kind of was alluding to earlier, Vance, is that, you know, we're trying to make this a player-led team. And like yesterday after practice, you know, we had some penalties on defense, and our players said, hey, defense on the sideline, let's go. We're running, you know, for the mistakes that we had, those penalties we had. And, you know, Lewis is an example of a guy that was owning that. Adam Anderson's a guy who's an example of a guy who was owning it, and no complaints. You know, when you have a player-led team like that, guys that'll be vocal and stand up and say, hey, what matters, and let's get it done. You know, I think you can really accomplish a lot more.
Coach, obviously, go ahead. Obviously, it's still early in camp, but are there any guys, young guys, that have stood out to you so far that maybe not necessarily are going to be playing early on, but are picking up the system really well?
I think it'd be hard for me to pick one, to be honest, Palmer, especially with us not having a scrimmage yet. You know, it's just been early, a lot of installation early on. So no, I couldn't pick one guy in particular, you know, but we have a good young group here.
Dan, how do you kind of unleash the pass rush skill of Nolan Smith in terms of, you know, came in as, I guess, a #1 overall recruit, but playing in your scheme and obviously had Aziz very productive last year. Are there certain aspects of his game you're looking to enhance to get the most out of him?
Yeah, I think every one of us as coaches, our goal is to continue to develop our players and make them better each year. And, you know, I think Nolan's been very conscientious about his development, you know, from a pass rush standpoint this offseason. And right now, every single day in our team meetings, we're showing a pass rush of the day, and Nolan's been on there, who's executing moves at a high level. So that's something we're going to continue to look for. But, there's definitely an opportunity sitting in front of Nolan, and I'm looking for him to take advantage of it. And I think he has the skill set to do so.
What are you looking to see out of Trayvon Walker this year?
A lot of TFLs, a lot of plays in the backfield. I want to see this guy running sideline to sideline. I have high expectations for Trayvon. His athleticism is really unique. He's a guy that we're always trying to figure out how can we incorporate in our scheme. And, we're asking him to do more this year. We're doing more with him this year than we've ever done. And I think Trayvon's really, bought into that, and it's showing up daily out there on the practice field.
Let's take
Which I'm kind of following up on Palmer's question, but I'll ask you about Javon Bulliard down from Baldwin County. How's his been progression since he's joined the program back in December?
Yeah, absolutely. Javon's an instinctive player. He's very intelligent, smart. He's a guy, again, that's able to learn multiple positions. We've asked him to do a lot, and he's tough, man. Javon is a football player. He's a tough football player. So he's done a great job so far.
Last question, please.
What are you looking to see out of MJ Sherman this fall, especially coming off that labrum surgery?
Yeah, I'm excited to see a healthy MJ. He hasn't really been he had some toughness this past year where he was able to play through, being dinged up and help us on special teams. But he has good strength, good energy, and this guy's very focused. So I'm excited to see where he can help us. He's getting some work at the Sam position as well as some work at the Jack this season. So it'll be interesting to see where he plugs in, but he's definitely pushing us to be better.
Thanks, Coach Lanning. Thanks, everybody.
Appreciate you guys. Have a good one.
Coach, talk to you in December.
All right.